Hello and welcome to Power to the People with me, Graeme Pryce. It's just a quick one today, but now that I've finally got an internet connection good enough to upload in a few minutes rather than a few hours, I thought I'd start making a few more of these just short little videos, just getting my thoughts out. It's a massive difference. It's like a fortnight ago my internet was being run by 3 drunk elderly slugs on a treadmill. Whereas now, it's like 1,000 leopards who are off the boxes on Wiz. It's quite a remarkable difference. So now I'd like to do what I intended to do when I first started the channel and get a bit more stuff out, sharing my opinions on more subjects and hearing your opinions too. I'm not going to commit to daily multiple uploads just yet because I don't want to let anybody down. But I often just sit here and write a little essay on something that's genuinely bothering me, or sometimes I'll answer a comment and get carried away and write an essay in response to somebody, and then I'll think to myself, maybe that's a viewpoint that I should make a video on and get some opinions on. That's how I came to make the video about capital punishment. Well, the title of this video was generated by one of those instances as well, when I found myself saying, when does diplomacy become appeasement though, mate? To somebody in a comment section, either here or on Twitter or Facebook or some other cesspit of misinformation. I thought it was an interesting question though, so I'm going to expand on my opinion just very slightly right after this. I was just looking at my channel analytics and I noticed that 53% of people who watch my videos weren't subscribed. The pain. Come on, just have a quick check that you've subbed, liked and rang the bell. Make a skinny old scouser a little bit happier today. The Chinese proverb, may you live in interesting times, isn't quite as friendly a blessing as you might think it sounds like it is. We've been living in very interesting times for quite the period of our lives now, and it's only getting more interesting as we go, isn't it? I don't think it'll surprise you to hear that I had absolutely no faith in any of the self-serving flap-jawed twats that the Tories appointed as Foreign Secretary over the years. There wasn't a single one that did a good job in the whole 14 years of their being in office, because all the Tories are fucking incompetent dickheads who only cared about themselves, obviously. The idea of cooperating with other countries or cooperating with the EU. Well, that was abhorrent to the Tories, wasn't it? So how could they possibly appoint a decent foreign secretary? The idea is just a paradox in itself, isn't it? Well, Labour's David Lamy is now the foreign secretary. And I have to say, I have mixed feelings on him. I think he's a quite eloquent and intelligent man, and I'm certainly not ashamed to see him representing the UK on the world stage. But he has done and said some quite silly things in the past. And if you look at his history, you know, there's some cloudy areas there. Let's just say that. But the media pathetically trying to bring up everything everybody ever said about Donald Trump. Thing is, practically every political figure, even slightly left of centre, and a lot on the right, had something derogatory to say about Donald Trump when he lost the 2020 election, because they didn't think he'd be back again in 4 fucking years, did they? The media, though, they're obviously concentrating on what some Labour MP might have said at, 2 a.m. in the morning during an obscure interview 4 years ago. Obviously. Really, it's what Keir Starmer does about Donald Trump going forward that is more likely to affect the opinions of the UK public, isn't it? Most are just too disinterested to even know who David Lamy is. And most just believe whatever they read on the front page of the tabloids or whatever they hear on BBC News. So it's how Starmer engages with Trump and how that's reported that makes the difference, not what David Lamy does. Apparently Starmer and David Lamy had a pleasant 2-hour dinner date with Trump a short while ago and walked away feeling satisfied that it had been successful and productive. That is certainly a good thing to hear, but let's not forget that Trump has endorsed every Tory Prime Minister, including Liz Truss, and attempted to influence UK elections by spreading disinformation on social media about Keir Starmer and Labour several times. His bromance partner, Elon Musk, who literally owns Twitter, told millions of people blatant lies during the Farage riots about Keir Starmer. I guess that never came up in the 2-hour productive conversation. So what are you expecting Keir Starmer to do then? Go on. If you were him, what would you say? I'm not defending the man. I mean, I'm not envious of him having to deal with Donald Trump for the next 4 years. Would you want to? I wouldn't want Donald Trump in my life for one day, let alone 4 years. Especially what would probably be the most important 4 years of your whole life if you were Keir Starmer. He must be gutted, mustn't he, that Donald Trump won. I mean, obviously, I'd like him to have come out on November the 6th and made a speech saying, "The American electorate has been duped into making a grave and dangerous error. The government of the United Kingdom does not share the discriminatory and divisive ideology that the President-elect espouses, and we cannot support the election of Donald J. Trump. And we implore other European nations who love democracy to do much the same." But obviously, he was never going to say that, was he? That's far too direct. I have researched Keir Starmer quite a bit. I understand people not liking him. He's not an entirely likeable fella, really, is he? But he does seem to be thoroughly competent. And he seems to have been successful at everything he's tried to do in his life. But then dealing with Donald Trump will probably be the most difficult and complicated thing that he has ever had to do. Have you got faith in him to be able to do it? I think I might have, but where does diplomacy end and appeasement begin? Where should we expect Sir Keir Starmer to place the red line? I think we can be reasonably confident that Labour will just ignore most of his culture war stuff, because they basically have ignored most of the Tories' culture war stuff and just pushed it into the background, haven't they? You know, anti-trans things and stuff like that. Labour seem to be just not talking about it very much, or doing the same things that the Tories did. If he goes ahead with his mass deportations, should that be the red line? He's talking about deporting as many as 10 million people. There's 360 million people in America. Can you imagine the impact that deporting 10 million people would have? Is that the point when Starmer should stand up and say, no, President Trump is incorrect. This isn't acceptable. If he makes this legislation that bans abortion entirely across all states of America, so that young girls who've been assaulted have to go ahead and have babies, or wives can't claim that they've been assaulted by the husband. It's difficult to talk about these things on YouTube because there's certain ways that you're not really allowed to say, but you know what I mean. There's good reason why people might have abortions, and it's not always because of the things that the Republicans think it is. Or if he tries to end the war in Ukraine by bullying Zelensky into ceding huge amounts of territory, as much as 20% of Ukraine, and letting Putin basically win. But not just win, also retreat the forces that he has left and go away and learn from, all the various things that have occurred in his special operation against Ukraine and come back much stronger when he wants to invade another country a few years down the line, Moldova or Finland again, or who knows, maybe even Germany. Would Starmer be wrong to come out and condemn that? Is that where diplomacy ends and appeasement begins? I think by that point it will have gone way past diplomacy, and if Starmer was to not stand up against actions like that, I'd find it very difficult to support him any further. Would you? Who would we support then? I certainly wouldn't support Nigel Farage. He's Donald Trump's mate, isn't he? I'm interested in everyone's opinions here. If you think Trump winning was a marvellous thing and I'm totally wrong and I'm just fear-mongering, then you go ahead and tell me in the comments. I get the feeling that you'll be, armed with nothing except feelings, vibes and right-wing bullshit. But I'd love to hear your opinion. I'd really like to hear what people think Starmer should actually do about Trump as well. When does diplomacy become appeasement? And what are you prepared to allow Trump to do in America before you expect the UK government, Keir Starmer in particular, to stand up for your views? Thank you for watching if you've gotten this far. As I said, it was only supposed to be a short video, but I got a little bit carried away on that last section there. It was supposed to be just an expansion on the question really, but I am interested in your views on what we should expect now that Trump has won the election and what you think the Labour Party should do in response. If you are feeling a bit low, just try and bear this in mind. Imagine how much worse you'd be feeling if the Tories had won the election, Sunak was still Prime Minister, or worse, Liz Truss or Ballbag Johnson, and the bastard Conservatives had another 5 years in office, all the while that Trump was, making his horrible little changes to democracy. Imagine that, eh? If you want to support the channel, all the relevant links are below, and the join button for memberships is down there as well. It's more appreciated than you could ever imagine. Now, that isn't all I have to say. Not about this subject, anyway. But it is as much of what I've got to say as I'm going to say today. Ta-ra. I'd also like you to tell me in the comments what you think, how you think Starmer should work with, oh, for fuck's sake, man. This is like take 10 and I'm just talking bollocks. I just keep going off on little tangents and talking absolute bullshit. I don't even know what's going on here.